Yes, as we continue the enforcement mechanisms, the implementation mechanisms of the constitutional force majeure activated December 16, 2020 by the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalist Alliance for Self-Determination. We have come to the point where we have to now address some of the actors in the arena, the main actors. And therefore, this address is directed at the People's Democratic Party as the main, and of course all the other political parties. We don't want to waste any time on APC, because the APC, we know, is a political party in name. It's an ideology. It's the framework, the mechanism by which the invaders, the conquerors of Nigeria, are validating themselves in the democratic space, pretending, are disguising themselves in the democratic space, pretending to be in some democratic play with the rest of us. And so our concern is with the People's Democratic Party that seems to be heading to another election under a constitution the people they represent have rejected. The question of whether the constitution is the source of our problems have been settled. Everybody now agrees that the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria is the source of all the problems. Everybody also now agrees that that constitution has to be replaced by something else. The disputations begin with the question of what is that thing else that we have to replace it, and more importantly, by what mechanism would that be done? Some say, oh, restructuring. Others point to National Assembly. But there's an even more important question, because these debates have been going on right since 1999. But every 4 years, elections will come. The same people who are debating the constitution that is not right will go and hold another round of election, renewing the life of the constitution, because the winner will swear to govern by and defend that constitution. And so we've come to where, having completed all these processes by which we were engaging the overall situation, we have come to where the all-important question of when will have to be answered. When will this calamity be put to an end? And that when, again, ties directly with the question of going to renew the life of that constitution by another election. And so a part of what has to happen in the implementation of that constitutional force majeure, as indicated in the 5-point demand, we will recall that the demand number 3 in that proclamation had to do with a commitment, a definite commitment for not going to another election under that constitution. And since only political parties contest elections in Nigeria, as we saw from the Supreme Court pronouncement on Amechi's matter in Rivers State, only political parties contest elections. Since we are all agreed that the constitution is the source of the problem, and all political parties, only political parties contest election, all political parties in Nigeria subscribe to that constitution. That's why they contest elections under it. The winner of any election would therefore have to swear to defend and uphold that constitution. And therefore the constitution continues its life cycle, and growing, being reinforced. Every election reinforces the constitution, renews the life of it. And so we've come to where we have to now tell the political parties that if at the time we are all struggling, we are all pushing, holding hands to terminate the source of our misery, that constitution being the source of that misery, if the political parties will decide to go to renew the life of that constitution yet another time, another round in 2023, at the time we are saying let us go to transition according to those 5 points of demand, anybody listening to this broadcast who had not read the constitutional force majeure proclamation should at least go to read the 5 points of demand so that they can see exactly what we are proposing. And there's a transition. We are not in quarrel with those in government house at this moment. We said, let the governance, the nominal governance continue, but we must now go to what South Africa did in 1990 to begin the process of decommissioning the apartheid constitution. We must now accept that we cannot proceed on the basis of that constitution to election or any other thing. And if anybody is still wondering why we are shouting constitution, it is the union agreement that have been overtaken for a while now, for over 22 years, for over 55 years if we go back to 1967, when the agreement, the union agreement that brought us together in 1960 was first toppled. We've not gone back to any union agreement since then. It's been imposition after imposition by way of decrees, consolidated in what has now become the 1999 constitution after the first compilation in 1979. So we understand that it is now time. We want to make it abundantly clear that the question of when this source of our misery will be extinguished is now dependent on whether we go to another election in 2023 to reinforce it, or we stop now and go into transition. The populace, the owners of the land, the indigenous nationalities, the international community has even spoken about it. Say, stop everything you are doing and go and solve this problem first. The most urgent transaction that Nigeria should undertake now is to stop the journey to 2023. And the people who have to make it happen or who have to make it more difficult are the political parties. And it is in that regard that we are speaking directly to PDP as the one who, if they choose now to listen, if they are on the side of the people they say they want to lead or they want to govern, if they are on the side of the people, they will not be going with a plan that will continue the killings, a plan that will reinforce the enemy in the killings that are going on, because it is that constitution that reinforces the enemy's power against the people being killed. It is that constitution that sees the assets of everybody, the oil and gas of Niger Delta, the bitumen of Ondo, the parts of Lagos, the limestone of Benue, and everything in between. It is that constitution that takes away the guns from everybody, from defending themselves, from people that are armed and invading them. And therefore, if in the face of all of what we are trying to do to take out that constitution, the political parties insist on going to renew the life of that constitution, then the populace, the owners of Nigeria, the indigenous nationalities, the peoples of Nigeria will then have to hold the political parties responsible for over and above everybody else, over and above the Fulani, over and above the government of the day. It is the political parties that will have to be responsible for these killings that are going on, for this impoverishment that is increasing every day, for this hopelessness that has overtaken this land. We therefore specifically invite the People's Democratic Party, PDP, into this discussion. They must tell us what their take is on this rejection of this constitution. Let nobody come to tell us about how he will restructure. No. Let us, that was how we came near to doing this ahead of the 2019 election. Then Atiku jumped up in 2016 and began to tell us how he would do restructuring, and people got deceived into giving him the ticket of PDP. And so let nobody go to think that on this occasion people are going to begin to go to the wasting of time of let us select party A other than party B. If they win the election, the 36 states, they will have to swear to defend and uphold the constitution that fracture us into 36 states or viable states, that has 68 items on the exclusive list, which sees everybody's assets and the guns to defend those assets. Everything we are rejecting will be reinforced. It doesn't matter who wins the election. So let's not get into the rigmarole of party A or party B will do it better. The reason we are focusing particularly on PDP now is that apart from APC, the other ones, the ones who are still, whether it's Young People's Party or the kind of thing Utomi and others constantly try to put together, the new governance, I don't know what they call them, obviously sequestrated them, trying to say that they can form a new political party of saints that will come and do better. those political parties are going to election that will be conducted by an INEC that is controlled by the nephew of your president, an INEC that is exclusively controlled by the Fulani. We've seen the delineation they did about what do they call voting units they call wards, and I don't know how they describe them anymore. And we've seen the kind of the kind of database with which they'll be working. They'll be the ones to print and distribute the PVC, the plastic PVC they put in your hands in a battle that is dependent on AK-47. That's what's been going on. And so let us come down to when we have to engage this issue. And that's why we're saying 2023 is still 2 long years away. We're inviting everybody to come now, because no matter what happens in that election, the winner will swear, if we proceed to it, the winner will swear to govern by that constitution. And that will bring us to another season of having to wait for some kind of luck later. No. From now to that 2023, those who are holding on to that constitution as source of power and authority will continue to do what they are doing, which is the killing they are doing. They have their own objectives. Those objectives, like we have seen in Afghanistan, those objectives of wiping off the owners of the land can actually be completed in the 2 years before 23. And none of you has any control over what they will do in 23. Let the lawyers amongst you go and look at section 135 to see all of what is possible for them. So we are not going to pretend that PDP will do it better. We're not saying, we're not judging anybody now, because everybody since 1999 have been doing what the constitution prescribed. It's not because it's PDP or APC that things are upside down. We're saying, let us proceed now, not tomorrow. Let's proceed now to extinguish the source of this misery that is putting 200 million people's lives at stake. The United Nations already pointed that to us in 2019. The US and other global powers, EU, and all their partners, in April of 2021, already told Nigerian government to please put aside this question of gun as the answer to this. It's a dialogue of the people that is required, and that the outcome of that dialogue should be fresh legal instrument. Well, how can the international community be that concerned about our matter that is costing us life and all kinds of misery? And the political parties in that country are not interested in that discussion. They only want to go to replace those in government house after how many years of being in charge, after how many trials of having gone from one party to the other. Let us come down to the business. We now have to change what is not working. We now have to stop the cycle of killings that is only growing. And if it is that constitution that is responsible for it, all of those who are not coming forward now for us to extinguish the life of that constitution will be counted as being on the side of the enemy. Let it not go beyond now for this engagement, because those whose lives have been put upside down, the young people who have been locked out of all opportunities in this land, the ones who went doing NSAS the other time, by the time they get to know that it is the political party, it is those who go to election under that constitution that are responsible for all of us being happening to them, people like us will not be there to ask them to take it easy. Let us not allow it to get to that, but it's heading to that speedily too. Let the wise listen and act. Thank you.